First session, there was an overarching theme which was very much about the tension that continually exists between a sort of an innovative, creative type approach in the colleges against, if you like, the world in which you live in, which is about audit and accountability and a risk-averse culture, particularly from a government perspective. So that was just an overriding view in terms of it's great to think creatively and innovatively, but you've got to work in some sort of different culture, particularly when public funding is concerned, and therein creates some tensions. Future opportunities. A general comment that working collectively as FE in a much more collaborative and non-competitive way is probably a very good way to drive some of this forward. So it's that kind of approach. And then when you add on the listening to employers and you combine what you want and you have employers on your side as well, and then you take that to your lords and masters in government and so on, that's again going to be a big sort of cultural change to really create the opportunity to influence policy, strategy, programs, call it what you like. Technically, opportunities around cloud computing, which may be much about a saving costs or streamlining, efficiency type argument. And of course the whole area of social networking has been mentioned as well. And really helping and engaging with business to understand better the opportunities that social networking provides. Barriers. A curriculum is probably not fit for purpose in this new era, so something has to be done. But a question mark over the ability to change the curriculum quickly. I mean, we mentioned getting a new foundation degree approved, for example, could take forever. So that was an issue. And of course, when you get into some kind of blended learning situation, capturing outcomes and getting funding against those outcomes, how do you assess people, all those kind of arguments. And I say I'm not from an FE background, so I'm sure you understand. You need to get paid, you need to assess. When you go online, it all becomes a little more challenging how you do that. Organizational challenges, just a couple of points there about the need to continue to develop sort of new partnerships and have a model and approach from your college which will allow you to develop new partnerships and consortiums. Sometimes, again, when you're working with public money, the ability to deal with that from a procurement point of view, if that's what's needed, and how you partner with people in a way which, again, meets the needs of government or the spending of public money, can always be a bit of a challenge. And again, back to this point, how can, as an organisation, you really have that influence that you need to drive forward change? And it's back to some of the earlier points about your collaborations, your collective activity, and working with employers and businesses generally. So that's sort of the first breakout session. Second breakout was very, very quick. So pick up some points there. How can new opportunities develop? Well, we talked about clearly, can we further exploit the ability to deliver the curriculum online? How do you assess all the usual situations? What opportunities does the new QCF present in terms of how you might organise units and so on? We talked about use of social media, in a sense to promote and advertise your college and use it as a bridgehead or as a Trojan horse, whatever, to drive in with more opportunities. And again, the usual talks about modernising the curriculum. Talking about, for example, I know in research terms and universities talk about the really interesting search being on the edges of different subject areas. And I suppose when you start looking at how much more you can combine, I think an example was quoted from Scotland, a course in journalism with a course in web design or some social media. When you actually start to bring those two together, you maybe have something that's really appealing, but individually they don't look connected. So it is very much more vocational focus and trying to tailor your needs. Second question, what I see ICT, ILT, technical skills for future. I think there was an element here of actually colleges need to be able to provide guidance. They need to understand the potential of new technologies. The actual, and it's really answering the next question as well, is looking out ahead and saying what's going to be important to us going on the future. Where what do we need to understand? That's the challenge. So some guidance is needed there. But there is a cultural mindset, depending on what even age you are in a college. There'll be the old fogies like me, and my generation perhaps, who are reluctant to change, whereas the young folks are coming up used to this new technology. And it's trying again to use that interesting, even competitive tension in your own situation to try and bring everyone along together. Realising the new reality. Again, Scotland example, Apple are now running around offering free training for trainers in colleges. Now, I understand as an old IT guy that's important. if you own who develops the applications, you sell an awful lot of phones and hardware. So the more people that have like, knowledge of developing applications in your technology, the better the business. But that opens up an opportunity to get those skills into the college and to market them elsewhere. So Apple, Microsoft are offering things. All sorts of folk in the technology sense are keen to offer free or limited training, which is a very useful way to help get new skills into the college and in turn then start to think about how you might exploit them. Last point, how can JISC help? An element of horizon scanning. You know, colleges themselves may not be able to do all that. They won't have their guru necessarily doing that. So can JISC help to look at what are the emerging technologies just coming over the horizon that may be of some use and colleges should be looking at, to where some of these technologies have been exploited and used, ensuring that more people know about them through best practice, dissemination, through case studies and all the usual sort of things, and actually using the technology to promote. So actually using some of this new technology to tell people and help them learn about it, I think is important. And I think actually some people have been quite captivated by the sort of Lectures in Industry scheme in Northern Ireland, which has been a big success over the last you know as much as I do, Andrew, about that number of years. And I know we were thinking of exporting it. I don't know if we're charging enough, mind you, for the export, but certainly it's a great idea and something that's really, really good. That's me done. Thank you very much.
Looking at the first session, we looked at key opportunities. We came up with quite a few, and amongst the key opportunities were the kind of technology base that the colleges already have. So points were made about things like video conferencing, where enabling companies to get involved in technologies like that would be an opportunity to get that across to industry where you'd be providing a service. The technologies that are still developing would be another point. So using mobile technology and tailoring mobile technology to the client group and to the needs of the clients was raised. A point that was made that is quite useful in terms of looking at how the learning might suit the needs and the availability of staff time in industry was about repackaging what we do at the moment, using the QCF or the SCQF in Scotland to make sure that the bite-sized chunks of learning are available so that if people want to achieve certain qualifications, it doesn't have to be a year or 2 years in college away from business. So that then frees up staff to be making money for the businesses and get that benefit for business. There was quite a few other things about opportunities which related to getting buy-in within the institution, but that also came up as one of the barriers, because if you don't get the buy-in within the institution, you can have all the good ideas that you want, but you won't achieve anything from it. A point that was made under barriers was the lack of unified strategies. Everybody's got their own idea, everybody's got their own thing that they're doing, for good or ill, but do we have unified strategies across the sector? The point was made, I think, that there are some folk or sector-based groups in Northern Ireland which you look at policies in a Northern Ireland-wide context, but I don't know if that happens in other areas. Management perceptions can be an issue. The point was made that as long as you've got buy-in from management, they don't have to know about what they're buying into as long as they buy in, and then they can let other people get on and do it. A barrier is the fact that a lot of institutions come from an old-fashioned background, so they don't actually realise how much they have to compete with other institutions, with with private sector as well. So those are barriers to getting on. Organisational challenges, finance and government policy. Obviously finance at the moment, but also it could be government policy in terms of how certain things have to be done or what we're looking to achieve. Skills gaps in the college, especially with strategic use of ICT, not just using it on the desktop, but actually embedding it within how we move forward. And embedding good practice, whether from your own institution or from the sector generally, would be challenges to moving on with industry. In session 2, how can new ways of working develop to work with business? There's a lot of new opportunities because of things like bandwidth increases. I don't know if it's the same across the whole country, but obviously because people are using much more media-rich applications, there's a lot of opportunities there to use content that is much more valuable, and that in itself is an opportunity to change the way that we work, so it's not just send out a Word document or a PowerPoint. Making use of social networking, even although some institutions have barriers and block social networking within their own institution, it is in itself an opportunity, but we could perhaps make more of the way in which we learn about how it can be used as a tool to get to industry. Mobile apps and things like that obviously are, buzzwords at the moment, but these are all opportunities to get on. Technical skills that staff might need, technology to create strategic partnerships, the ability to actually understand how that might allow you to work with industry to create a strategic partnership that develops both parties. Research skills. Point was made that JISC supports staff in their ability to research well, but it's in itself a skill that needs to be developed further, and how to link with mobile technology and other tools that would allow you to collaborate with industry, because obviously it's new. 9-year-old children might be able to do it, but can the staff in colleges? And what can JISC do to help generally, other than the points that have already been made? One point that was made through lunch as well was that they're about the only body that's nationwide in a UK sense where it potentially could deal with different funding bodies, different government, local governments, whatever. So being an advocate on behalf of the sector, and also focusing maybe slightly more on FE and not the perception that it's HE based. So I think that's a